We all share stories about the strange things we experience in the workplace. But some things we choose not to share, things we just can't talk about. But I've decided it's time to reveal the truth, a story of horror and survival. I was working security at a Freeport storage facility, and if you don't know what a Freeport is, it's a place where a lot of valuable collections such as artwork and antiques are stored, usually for the purpose of not having to declare them, thus avoiding any kind of tax, which makes it extremely appealing to elite collectors. For obvious reasons, the security measures at the facility were state of the art. However, the facility was recently found to be complicit regarding the theft of some valuable items, so security had to be outsourced a few months back, and a lot of the employees were laid off and replaced with fewer, less experienced personnel. To be honest, I wasn't sure if it was my job to keep the inventory safe or babysit the rookies and make sure they didn't screw anything up. Either way, I had a job to do, which was mostly overseeing the arrival of new inventory. There was one recent arrival though that had me and the rest of the staff rather baffled. We were approached by a foundation of sorts that urgently required high priority storage for just a few days while they arranged safe air travel for it. And since the Freeport was located conveniently next to an international airport, it seemed like the obvious choice. It was mandatory to have security cameras in each of the storage units. However, the Foundation required all cameras for that particular unit to be disabled, citing confidentiality. This was highly uncommon, but they claimed to be from the government, so at our discretion, an exception was made. Despite transparency being on the agenda in light of recent events, we had no idea what was inside the container, but we still imposed the required security protocols before transferring it to one of the larger storage units, which was located directly opposite the control room and was deemed to be one of the most secure units on site. Unfortunately, the full extent of security protocols could not all be performed at the same time due to the reduction of staff, so a digital security brief was compiled throughout the day for all new arrivals and incidents that would then be cross-examined later by whoever was working on the night shift, which fortunately was not me, and my shift was almost over. Usually, I would wait until the other security guard arrived at the control room before clocking out, but the other guy was running late, so I reluctantly left my post and headed to the locker room to find out what was up. Upon arrival, I noticed that the door to the locker room had been left open and there was no light. My coworker was not the kind of person to fool around, and he had never been late before. To make matters worse, this time of night always gave me the creeps, since the rest of the personnel already left and there was something eerie about being alone in a large storage facility. I cautiously progressed to the entrance of the locker room and tried to make sense of the dark and murky interior. Suddenly, out of nowhere, my coworker arrived behind me. He apologized for being late, citing that he got distracted by the new coffee machine in the lobby upstairs. I told him to hurry up and pay special attention to the security brief, but he laughed it off and headed to the control room, before letting me know that the light to the locker room was busted. As I sat down in a locker room alone in the dark, I began to think more about the contents of the large storage unit and why the cameras needed to be disabled. Obviously, it was something that those spooks from the Foundation didn't want us to see. Hopefully, the results of the security brief might shed some light on what they were up to. After hearing a noise like I've never heard before, I felt conflicted with fear and the instinctive desire to be fully aware of what was going on.
Security breach detected. Initiating lockdown.
With the initiation of the lockdown protocols, I knew it was serious, and there was no escape until backup arrived, who were at least 45 minutes out. I peeked down the long corridor from where the noise originated, but there was no sign of any disturbance. I wanted to stay put, but wondered if my colleague was in trouble and needed my help. In any other situation, I would have probably pulled a gun at this point. But since security was so tight upstairs, weapons were deemed unnecessary on the lower floors. As I reached the end of the corridor, I was shocked to realize that the large storage unit had been breached from the inside. I couldn't even begin to imagine the kind of strength required to punch through solid steel, and it made me wonder what other dirty secrets the Foundation was hiding. It looked like he was in the middle of analyzing the digital security brief when it happened. And when I looked at the monitors, I saw something that shook me to the core, which was quickly preceded by another strange sound coming from the large storage unit behind me. I quickly engaged the security door in the small hope it would buy me enough time to manually override the lockdown. But after confining myself inside the control room, I noticed a strange interference with the cameras. Hey folks, so what is your theory on what they saw on the monitors, despite having the cameras disabled? Would you like to know how the story ends? Let me know in the comments below, and stay tuned for the next episode on Animated Horror Flicks.